Ahoy there, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, recreation in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. I'm your host for this show. My name's Will Morrissey. My wife is the producer of the show. Bridget, she has the idea for this show because she's in real estate and she's shown so many people places all around the area, from Old Lyme to Charlestown, zigzagging from Mystic up to Mashantucket to Uncasville. She knows all the back roads because she hates driving on I-95. Can you blame her? But she's found so many places for people to go visit, and we've got so many new people coming into the area, especially all those people building submarines, the brave souls that are driving the submarines. We've got students coming into UConn and Avery Point, Mitchell College, Connecticut College, all the cadets at the United States Coast Guard Academy, plus all the visitors that we're getting. Mystic was recognized as the top 4 travel destination for the summer of 2023. So we've got a lot of people coming in that really don't know all the things that are available to them. So we decided to show you different things that you can do. Trails, the water, golf, you name it, we showed it to you. And today we're going to be doing both the water and trails. And we've got Maggie Favretti from the Alliance for the Mystic River Watershed with us. She's co-founder. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How did you get involved with conservation to begin with?
Well, the short answer is my parents always taught me that you ought to leave a place better than the way you found it. So those values, growing up close to the land, being able to grow our own food, growing up privileged to live in the woods, I spent a lot of time outside and exploring and noticing and wondering, and even imagining that I had a grandfather tree who told me stories. I lived near the Nipmuc Trail, and I imagined that tree was old, huge white oak tree. And so I imagined that the tree was telling me the stories of how it was back in the day. And so I am predisposed, I guess, to care. And then I became an educator. And so my career in education is still going because now I'm trying to make it possible for young people to stay engaged in the natural world, to spend as much time as possible outside. And the Alliance for the Mystic River Watershed helps to do that.
Well, people might not know everything about the Alliance, but let's give them a little bit of a clue about what the Mystic River Watershed is. We've got a video to play for you.
Let me give you the Mystic River Watershed Historical Overview by Mary Hendrickson. The Mohegans and Pequots named the river Missituck, which means a large river whose waters are driven into waves by tides or wind. The first peoples who inhabited this land found abundant natural resources. Its proximity to Long Island Sound and an abundance of game, shellfish, finfish, and waterfowl made it an ideal location. The river was bountiful and is considered sacred by the tribes. The Mystic River Watershed begins at Lantern Hill, now part of the Mashantucket Reservation. In her book published in 1895, Frances Manwaring Calkins mentions the hill's white quartz cliffs are said to shine in sunlight when viewed from the Atlantic Ocean. This sacred hill would shed its waters to form a stream which flowed into Lantern Hill Pond, Long Pond, Hyde Pond, and Whitford Brook before reaching the village of Old Mystic, becoming the Mystic River. That's it for now. Back to you, Maggie and Will.
Well, now that we know it starts up there in Lantern Hill and works its way all the way down the Mystic River and out to the Fisher's Island Sound, can you tell us a little bit about the Alliance to protect the Mystic River Watershed?
Sure. So we noticed, I'm not the only founder, there were a group of us who noticed that all around us there's this amazing beauty. There's opportunities to fish, there's opportunities to row. A number of us are rowers, we who founded this organization. So we feel very close to the river. But we've also noticed that there are some things that are wrong. And so there are days when the river seems definitively unhappy, like things floating in it that we think probably shouldn't be there. And then that started us wondering. And we began noticing that other watershed groups or other watersheds were protected by groups that were just like us, a group of scrappy people who loved the the ecosystem that we live in and wanted to make sure that we could make it as healthy as we possibly could. And there wasn't any such group for the Mystic River Watershed. And then we began to notice specific instances where it seemed as if the towns weren't working as well together as they might be, because the ecosystem is a lot bigger than any single jurisdiction in it. And it involves whole sovereign nations as well as the 4 towns. And we thought it would make a lot of sense to pull together those 4 towns and the 2 tribal nations into a collaborative alliance to care for this watershed and to care for all of the species in it, of which we are a part, and to do that by encouraging civic participation, by learning together, and by stewardship, caring for it.
Oh, that's great. Well, there's one of the things that I noticed in your website was the resilience plan that you've got. And I think we've got something to show people about what the Alliance is really doing. So why don't we run that video?
With the help of SCCOG, SECT Council of Governments, and the Mashantucket Pequot Museum and Research Center, the Alliance brought together the MSR Watershed Region's planners, or their representatives, and added some supporting research organizations and nonprofits. We defined resilience, identified shared concerns, and committed to working together as a coordinated planning unit. Afterwards, all 4 towns and 2 tribal nations signed off on a letter of support for us to continue working together on a watershed-wide plan. The second planner's convening resulted in a sharing of existing water-related projects and some brainstorming of potential horizon points. They included protective zones around all water, regenerative design for development, engaging education for residents and commission members, coordinated stormwater management and plans of conservation and development, more citizen and local expert participation from all ages at all levels.
Now, the Alliance is growing. You mentioned that you got into it because you kind of were brought up that way. But I was reading about the gatherings that you have, and and saw some of the pictures and read a little bit about it. Can you tell us a little about your gatherings?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we've noticed is that people are craving, really yearning for the opportunity to meet other people who care about the watershed and to do something that matters, right? And we know from science of how our brains work that when we are collaborating around something that we really care about, this shared sense of purpose is actually really healthy for us and makes us feel good, so we want to keep doing it. And I think the gatherings are representative of that. So every gathering we've had now, we've had 6 of them. There are about 30 people, not always the same 30 people, who come out. We have them in different places in the watershed because they're also meant to be educational. So one of them, for example, we had in Noank, and we invited some of the oyster culturalists to come and speak with us. We also invited Pequot knowledge keeper Mike Thomas, he's also an elder, to come and talk to us a little bit about the coevolution of Pequot people and oysters, a little bit about the history of the area, and a lot about the ecology of oysters and how important they are as foundational species to clean the water, right? That's their role in the healthy ecosystem, and how important clean water is for them. And so they help to clean the water, but they also need clean water. And so that puts a responsibility on us as well. And I think we're really looking forward to the rest of this year, where we will actually, after having had some of these introductory learning opportunities, we'll be able to turn those gatherings into action groups that are really looking at, okay, how are we going to look out for the river herring and help them get back up into Long Pond where they can spawn? And how are we going to look out for clean water and monitor the stormwater that's going in, polluted stormwater that's going into the water. So these gatherings are an opportunity to learn together, but then also to think, okay, what kinds of natural solutions can we design together? What can we do together to take care of this place?
Well, I know you're stressing education when you talk about all of this, but this show is about recreation. So, I mean, and you're bringing up a really good point that education can be recreation.
Oh, yes.
You know, I mean, how many people would love, you tell somebody that's up in Hartford or something that they could come down and learn about oysters and cleaning the water, or go and take a hike and see what's going on as preservation and conservation efforts are being taken care of. I mean, that's a really great program you're running.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. As an educator, I always tried to engage students in whatever it was that we were trying to teach. So I taught cultural history. I didn't hand them a textbook and ask them to tell me what was in it, because that seems like a futile exercise. There wouldn't be much depth of learning there. But when you are actually engaged in something that you're caring about, the learning that happens is much deeper. And so I think that this is how we ought to be setting up learning experiences and learning ecosystems, really, for our young people so that they can stay connected. Little kids have a pretty strong connection to the rest of the natural world. And then we send them into a concrete box. And so we take them away from life, and then they have to figure out sometime later in their lives how to knit that back together again. And so what we would love to do is to engage people of all ages in learning about and then learning how to design solutions for the challenges that are confronting our whole ecosystem, right? We're part of it too. And so one other thing about learning that makes it fun is not only are we learning by doing, and that's just fun by nature, but also we're learning from nature. And so learning that we are part of nature and learning about relationships. So for us, relationships are the most important element, because if we look at healthy natural ecosystems, which are the most resilient systems on Earth, after more than 3.6 billion years, they ought to be, right? When we look at how they work, relationships is the most important thing, and a clear focus. They're called regenerative because the purpose, the definition is to create more life, right? So what we want to do is to set up our alliance the same way so that when we are engaged in these fun educational activities, we're also learning how to make this region more regenerative so that it can continue to thrive going forward into future generations.
Well, there are a lot of rules and regulations that have been made, and I know people like to go fishing over in Long Pond. We've got a video about that, but you know, it's a 5 mile per hour speed limit there. You can bring in whatever boat you want, but you can only go 5 miles an hour. Why don't we run the video on Long Pond? Now, you mentioned that there's about 30 individuals right now that are involved with your group, but you also mentioned that it's kind of tough for
About
towns.
300 individuals.
300?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
More than 30 organizations.
30 organizations, that's okay. But you mentioned it was a little hard because of jurisdictions of different towns trying to get together.
Right.
But you managed to pull all this together. We have a video to play in a minute or so about some of these people, organizations that have come together with you. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
I will, but I want to say one thing first about the recreation in Long Pond and Bush Pond. So first of all, one of the things that the Alliance is doing is working hard to make sure that the water quality there is improved and sustained so that people can eat the fish that they can fish out of there, so that the water that goes into people's wells there is clean. But importantly, Connecticut is now confronted by an invasive plant that's worse than anything else that we've seen, called hydrilla. The name even sounds like a monster. And so Amos Lake, unfortunately, had a hydrilla bloom last summer, and that's only 5 miles away from Lantern Hill Pond and Long Pond and Bush Pond. So we are encouraging our Alliance volunteers, will be training them. They will be educating other boaters and people who are fishing coming to that boat launch on how to clean their boats, how to make sure they don't have little pieces of anything in their fishing hooks, so that we don't spread it in there, because it could crash the entire ecosystem there.
That's a good point. Our show I think it's May 16th, is the day before National Safe Boating Week starts.
Ah, yes.
And we have the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection as our guest, and Jason's going to come in and talk exactly about what you were just talking about.
Very good.
Because it is a big problem that if we deal with it, it can be taken care of, but you have to deal with it.
That's right. So it's sort of almost like conscious recreation, right?
There you go.
So recreation that's also taking care of the environment at the same time. So I hope we do lots of that. To answer your question, it is complicated, right? And the one key word, again, is relationships. So the collaboration that we have between the 4 towns, Groton, Stonington, North Stonington, Ledyard, and the 2 sovereign tribal nations, the Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation and the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, is historic. They've all agreed to work together to care for this watershed, and the Alliance has been able to do that relationship by relationship by relationship, and working together on developing that plan for ecological health and also climate resilience is bringing us together. We're staying focused on that, and it's helping us to plan as a unit, as a coordinated unit, how we're going to achieve the goals that we set forth in that plan.
Well, I know you're looking for people to join. Why don't we run the video? You can see how many different organizations have already joined and how you can join too.
Yes, we have many more, actually, but they haven't all given us their logos.
Now, you could tell us a little bit about these different organizations.
These are all research organizations and academic institutions, and they support our work. Eastern Connecticut Conservation District does a lot of research in these are nonprofits that are also helping to test the water and help us to manage the watershed. Lantern Hill Valley Association, of course, is at the headwaters, very important organization there. The land trusts and the conservation organizations, we work together with them to get people outside, but also to help preserve land where it needs to be preserved, and to help think about development that will regenerative development that will leave the ecosystem stronger than it was before. Mashantucket Pequot Museum and other museums like Denison Pequot Seapost Nature Center have also donated space and given us a place to meet. We have annual paddles, 1 or 2 of them. We're also allied with the schools, and so this is important as well, and aware, of course, of our history.
Join today. You can make it happen.
There's plenty to do.
I think you probably noticed when those logos were swinging by that 3 of them in a row have been on this program already.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and they,
And I watched your the shows about them.
you know, and you know, I mean, it is a big part of what we're trying to tell people, that there's so much available out there, but we've got to do our part to keep it clean.
That's right.
You know, so we've got another little video about Long Pond, but it's about fishing. It's from the DEP. Why don't we run that one too?
Here are fishing tips for trout management lakes like Long Pond in Ledyard and North Stonington from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Regulations differ among trout management lakes and important cold water lakes in CT. So consult the fishing guide prior to heading out to one of these locations to fish. A unique opportunity at the trout management lakes is that each lake is open for fishing. During the month of March, all other stocked lakes close on the last day of February. During the month of March, each angler can take 1 trout that is 16 inches or larger per day. When fishing for holdover trout from the shore, timing can be critical. Night fishing, where legal to do so, is an excellent way to connect with large trout, as they often come closer to shore to feed under the cover of darkness. In addition, brown trout are fall-spawning fish and will often be found October through December coming into shallow water. Catching them at this time can prove frustrating because their focus is more on spawning and less on feeding. For boat fishermen, all of the state's trout management lakes have well-maintained boat launch facilities. Long Pond has a 5 miles per hour speed limit. Most avid trout fishermen that target holdover trout in Connecticut lakes concentrate their efforts during mid-May through June. Water temperatures in CT lakes during that time of year are ideal, and large trout activity at this time is considered peak. By clearly defining what each trout management lakes can and cannot be expected to produce, biologists will be able to better utilize hatchery-reared trout and provide more opportunities for fishermen to catch large trout. In Long Pond, you can expect to find trout, chain pickerel, largemouth bass, calico bass or black crappie, yellow perch, sunfish, also known as bluegill or pumpkin seed, and walleye. Enjoy your day on the water.
Summer can't come fast enough.
Exactly. And I know people are very excited about fishing. There's a couple of fish species that I want to highlight because these are the ones that we hope people put back. So the American eel and the river herring also, well, they're bluebacks, but they are not as plentiful as the alewife. And in both cases, they are species of concern, which means that their populations are dropping. And so we want to make sure that if you catch one of those, that you give it a kiss and put it back.
I don't know, I need to give it a kiss.
Well, they're so important for our ecosystems that we want to honor them by caring for them.
It was nice to see that the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection raised the bar as far as what goes on with Long Pond. You saw in the video there that they raised it to give it more recognition, give it better fishing area than it was, and it has its own state launching ramp. But boy, we've gone through quite a bit here, and time just flies by. Is there anything you want to wrap up? I mean, we can tell people how you can join.
Well, that would be great. So it's free to join the Alliance. We will ask you to participate with us, but I think that's the mostly why people join anyway, because they want to do something that matters. And there's a lot more we can talk about, but hopefully when people join us and come to our gatherings, we can learn more together.
Have you got anything coming up soon?
What we have coming up very soon is I'm going to be starting a series of climate conversations because I'm also a specialist in climate mental health. And so I know people are very concerned about what's going on in the climate and aren't really sure how to talk to their kids about it. So I will be doing that. We also are looking to set up an alewife kind of celebration and count. That's going to be next month. So yeah, things are coming up. And then behind the scenes, we're working with the town planners and so on.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for coming and explaining the Alliance for the
I almost
Mystic River
forgot.
What's that?
Youth Climate Summit. We're working with the Marine Science Magnet School.
Oh,
March
okay,
7th.
Okay. Will you be at the expo at the Groton Public Library? And,
We definitely will.
all right, we'll
and-
see you there. I signed
yeah.
up for it today with Nautical Tales and
Cool.
Nature Trails.
Stonington Farmers Market Saturday with a three-dimensional terrain model to play with.
Yep. Well, thank you for tuning in, folks, and we'll see you at the next show. Bridget's going to take us out here.
Thank you, Maggie, and the Alliance for the Mystic River Watershed. For the
There's so much
tremendous
going
work
on
that
that
you do for all of us. We appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels at Mystic 2 Westerly and at SEC TV 1. Please join our group on Facebook and like my Facebook page. I would be pleased to help you. Let me explain Mystic to Westerly to you. Mystic is actually part Groton and part Stonington. Stonington Borough and Pawcatuck are also part of Stonington. 2 towns, 2 states make 1 community. Watch Hill and Misquamicut Beach are part of Westerly. Connecticut Route 2 starts in Pawcatuck, goes through North Stonington, into Ledyard, and Preston, to Norwich. It goes across the river into Uncasville, and more of New London County on its way to Hartford. New London County is also home to Waterford, East Lyme, Niantic, and Old Lyme. Basically, we enjoy living in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. Thank you for watching Nautical Tales and Nature Trails. We hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.